Welcome to Whisper Secrets, where the most intimate mysteries come to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you never miss a secret. Now, let's pull back the veil. It was an ordinary night when everything changed. I had just come home after a long day at the office. My mind was occupied with the usual thoughts: work, the upcoming meeting with clients, and the endless emails I still had to go through. As I walked through the front door, I expected the usual calm. My wife, Sarah, would be in the kitchen preparing dinner, or maybe watching her favorite show. But instead, there was an eerie silence. I called out her name, but no response. It wasn't like her to be this quiet. She usually greeted me with a smile, or at least a casual acknowledgement. When I walked into the living room, I noticed that her things were scattered on the couch: her purse, her shoes, the books she had been reading. Something felt off. I checked the bedroom next. And that's when I saw it. There, on the bed, half hidden beneath a pile of clothes, was a small, leather-bound diary. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't just any diary, it was hers. The one she'd been keeping for months, probably longer. I knew she had one, but she never shared it with me. I never asked for it. I respected her privacy, until now. A strange urge tugged at me. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't stop myself. I picked it up, the weight of it strange in my hands, as if the book itself was somehow heavy with secrets. The leather felt worn, well used. I opened the first page, my fingers trembling slightly. The first few entries were harmless, filled with mundane thoughts about her day, the weather, the things she had planned for the week. But then, as I read further, the tone began to change. The writing became more intimate, more personal. And that's when I found it, the truth. The first entry that made my blood run cold was written a few months ago. It was about a man I had never heard of, someone named David. I can't stop thinking about him. Every time he looks at me, I feel something inside me stir, something I didn't think was possible anymore. I never meant for this to happen. But when he kissed me, everything changed. David? My mind raced. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't stop myself. I had to know more. I turned the page and it got worse. My stomach tightened as I read more about this affair that had been happening right under my nose. Sarah, my wife, had been sleeping with another man. He wants me, I can feel it. I shouldn't want him to, but I do. I feel alive when I'm with him. He makes me forget about everything else. Even you, Greg. I nearly dropped the diary. My name, written in the most casual, indifferent way possible. It was like she didn't even care that I would find this. As I read, the hurt began to bubble up, and the anger followed closely behind. The tears she'd cried when we'd had fights? The promises of love she'd made? All lies. Every single word. I could barely comprehend the full weight of what I was reading. She had been cheating on me. But more than that, she had been living a double life, with me on one side, and David on the other. The man she had been sleeping with was someone I had trusted, someone I had known. David wasn't just a stranger. David was a friend. He had been to our house countless times, shared beers with me, talked about work, about life. He was close enough to be part of our inner circle. And now, I found out that he had been sharing more than just casual conversation with my wife. He had been sharing her. I felt like the room was closing in on me. My head was spinning. My wife, the woman I had devoted myself to, had been betraying me for months. But it wasn't just the affair that stung. It was the realization that everything I had thought was solid and stable had been a lie. The trust we had built was nothing more than a fragile facade. I couldn't stay in the bedroom anymore. I left the room and wandered around the house, trying to calm my nerves. But every corner of the house, every small detail I had once taken for granted, now felt like a reminder of the betrayal. The pictures on the wall, the coffee cups we used every morning, the soft laugh I had grown so used to hearing, none of it felt the same. I needed answers. I needed to confront her. When Sarah finally came home that evening, I wasn't sure what to say. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Should I confront her? Should I just leave her? Was there even a chance of saving our marriage? When I heard the door open, I knew she was home. My heart raced as I heard her footsteps coming down the hallway. I turned, and there she was, standing in front of me with a hesitant smile on her face. But when she saw my expression, her smile faltered. "Greg? What's wrong?" she asked, her voice soft and concerned. "Why didn't you tell me about David?" I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm inside me. "Why didn't you tell me you were having an affair?" Her face strained of color. She stood frozen for a moment, her eyes flickering with fear. She must have realized that her secret was out. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, but I could hear the nervousness in her voice. She was lying. "Really? Because I found your diary, Sarah," I said, my voice sharp now. "I read everything. I know about you and David. I know you've been cheating on me for months." Her face crumpled as she realized I wasn't going to let this go. I never meant for it to happen, Greg," she said, her voice trembling. "I was confused. I was lonely. But it didn't mean anything. I still love you. I swear." I shook my head. "No. You don't get to use that excuse. You betrayed me, Sarah. And not just once. You lied to me, and you let it go on for far too long." "I'm sorry," she whispered, but it sounded empty now. Please understand. I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why did you do it?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why did you choose him? Why did you let him into our lives? Into our home?" She started crying, but her tears didn't move me. She had lost the right to my sympathy. I don't know what happened. I thought it was just a fling at first. I didn't think it would go this far. But it did. And now I've ruined everything." She collapsed onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. I stood there for a moment, my heart breaking, but also filled with a deep, boiling rage. I had been living in a lie for months. I had been blindsided, and now, I was the one left picking up the pieces. "You've ruined us," I said, my voice trembling with anger. "I can't forgive you, Sarah. I can't look at you the same way." She tried to reach for me, but I pulled away, not able to bear her touch. "I don't even know who you are anymore." That night, I packed my things and left the house. I couldn't stand being in that place anymore. The house that had once been filled with love now felt like a prison. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing: I needed to get out of there. I couldn't stay. As I walked out the door, I left behind a life that had been built on lies. The man I was, the person I thought I knew, was gone. I didn't know who I was anymore, but I was determined to find out. The night I walked out, I wasn't sure where I was going. I didn't care. All I knew was that I couldn't be in that house, surrounded by memories of everything I thought was real. I walked aimlessly through the streets, my thoughts consumed by the words in the diary, by the betrayal that had completely shattered my world. I ended up in a bar, a dimly lit, quiet place where no one knew my name. I sat at the bar, ordered a drink, and stared into the glass, watching the ice clink against the sides. My mind was racing, but I couldn't stop the overwhelming feeling of emptiness that filled me. I had always been so sure of my life, my marriage. I had trusted Emily with everything, and now I was left with nothing. The bartender, an older man with graying hair, gave me a sympathetic glance. "Rough night?" he asked, as he poured my drink. "You could say that," I muttered, not really in the mood to talk, but needing something to distract me from the storm raging inside me. "I've seen it before, kid," he said, his voice gruff but kind. "You're not the first one to walk into a place like this after something hits the fan. I can tell you something, though. Don't make any rash decisions tonight. You'll regret it in the morning." I didn't respond. I just took another sip, the burn of the alcohol doing little to numb the pain. I didn't know what I was supposed to do now. I couldn't go back to the life I had, not after what I'd learned. But the thought of living without Emily, it felt like a loss I couldn't bear. I stayed in that bar for hours, lost in my thoughts. And then, I made a decision. I couldn't just leave things like this. I couldn't just walk away. I was going to make sure Emily paid for what she had done, but I wasn't going to do it the way I had imagined. Revenge wasn't just about destroying her, it was about taking control of my life again. I left the bar and headed home, my mind set on the next step. The next day, I started putting my plan into motion. I knew I had to be careful. This wasn't going to be some impulsive act of anger. This was going to be calculated. Every move had to be deliberate. If Emily thought she could walk away from this unscathed, she was wrong. I had to dig deeper. I needed to find more. Emily had hidden so much from me, but I was done being blind. I was going to uncover every last secret. I started with her phone. I knew it was a breach of privacy, but at that moment I didn't care. She had betrayed me, and I had every right to know everything. Her phone was password protected, but I had seen her enter the code enough times to guess it. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I unlocked it. There were texts from David. Casual ones. Flirty ones. And then there were the intimate ones, the ones where they talked about the future, where they talked about their plans. It was as if they were already building a life together, a life I had no part in. As I scrolled through their messages, I found something that made my blood run cold, a message from Emily saying she had fallen in love with David, that she wanted to be with him forever. The words stung, but they also fueled the fire of my determination. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about making sure they both paid for the pain they had caused me. I started taking action. I reached out to the people I knew, those who had connections with David, his colleagues, his superiors in the police department. It wasn't hard. David's career had been built on his charm, but he had made too many enemies. I started spreading rumors, making sure his colleagues questioned his professionalism, his integrity. I fed them small pieces of information, things I knew would make them suspicious of him. His reputation, the one he had so carefully cultivated, began to crack. But that wasn't enough. I needed something more. Something that would destroy him completely. I dug into his past, his financial records, his dealings. I knew he had always been good at covering his tracks, but no one is perfect. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. And it didn't take long to find them. I had learned about a questionable transaction involving David. A large sum of money that he had mysteriously moved around, no clear explanation. I dug deeper, and I found the missing piece. He had been bribed, paid off to look the other way on several cases. It was dirty money, and I had the proof. The next day, I made sure the right people got that information. As David's life started to unravel, I knew it was time for Emily to feel the consequences of her actions. But I wasn't going to confront her yet. I wanted to make sure she saw what was coming, felt the weight of her betrayal, before I made my final move. I started with her social circle. I knew how much her friends and colleagues meant to her, so I carefully started spreading the word about her affair with David. I didn't have to say much. A few well-placed comments, a couple of whispers about her behavior, and the rest of her world began to question her. Her friends started distancing themselves. Her colleagues began treating her with cold indifference. The cracks began to show. But it wasn't just about social rejection. No, this was about her career. I made sure that the rumors of her affair, and the way she had betrayed me started to leak into her professional world. She had built her reputation on being a reliable and trustworthy colleague, but that was crumbling. Her career was being sabotaged, one rumor at a time. And the best part? She had no idea who was behind it. As the days passed, I watched from the sidelines. Emily's life was falling apart. David was being investigated. And all the while, I stayed in the shadows, pulling the strings. The power was intoxicating. The control was mine, and it felt good. But there was still one last thing I had to do. I wanted to confront them. I wanted them to know the pain they had caused. I wanted them to see that their lives were nothing without me, that they had destroyed something real for their own selfish desires. But I wasn't going to do it recklessly. I had spent so much time carefully orchestrating every move. The confrontation had to be perfect. They needed to feel it. I had to wait for the right moment. The day of the final confrontation came sooner than I expected. Emily, looking frazzled and broken, showed up at the door. I wasn't surprised. She had nowhere else to go. When I opened the door, she looked at me with a mixture of guilt and fear in her eyes. But this time, I wasn't the man she had left behind. This time, I was someone else. Someone she had turned into a villain. And now, I would make her pay. Greg, she started, but I cut her off. No more apologies, I said, my voice cold and final. You've lost everything. Your career. Your friends. Your reputation. And now you've lost me. Don't come here thinking you can fix things. She opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't let her. You chose him, I said. And now you both get to live with the consequences. And with that, I shut the door in her face. It's strange, the way everything begins to fall into place after you make a decision. The steps I took, the moves I made, all felt like they were leading up to this moment. Emily had fallen apart, David was unraveling, and yet, I couldn't shake the emptiness that gnawed at me. It felt like I was missing something. The victory, the satisfaction I had thought I would feel? It never came. I hadn't anticipated how it would feel to be the one pulling the strings. At first, I reveled in the power, in watching their lives crumble, piece by piece. I told myself that it was justice. That it was what they deserved. But somewhere along the way, I started to feel nothing. No joy, no catharsis, just a deep emptiness. Emily had called again. It had been several days since I shut the door on her, but she had continued to try. Texts. Phone calls. The occasional email. Each time, I ignored them. I thought I had nothing left to say to her. She had chosen David, not once but twice. And now here she was, trying to crawl back into my life. I didn't respond. But I couldn't help but wonder why she thought she could. Why she thought, after everything, I would let her back in. I had given her everything, my heart, my trust, my love. And she had taken it all and thrown it away for a man who had no respect for her, for me, or for anything we had built. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I was still waiting for something I had no right to expect. I was waiting for an apology that would never come. And in that waiting, I was becoming just as consumed as they had made me. I wanted closure. I wanted the final piece to fall into place. But as time passed, I began to wonder if closure was even possible after everything I had done. I was sitting in my office late one evening when the doorbell rang again. I wasn't expecting anyone, and I didn't feel like answering. But something compelled me to get up and walk toward the door. When I opened it, I was taken aback. Standing in front of me wasn't Emily. It wasn't David. It was Nathan, the man who had been the catalyst for everything that had happened. My heart skipped a beat. What was he doing here? He had been my best friend, the one person I thought I could trust with my life. The person who had known everything about me, my fears, my dreams, my most personal thoughts. And now, after everything he had done, he was standing at my door, like nothing had changed. Greg, Nathan said, his voice almost apologetic. Can we talk? I didn't say anything at first. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face, to send him away with the same cold indifference I had shown Emily. But another part of me wanted to hear him out, to see if there was any trace of remorse in his eyes. Come in, I said finally, my voice hard but controlled. But this better be good, Nathan. I don't know what game you're trying to play, but I'm not interested in hearing excuses. He stepped inside, looking uncomfortable, as if he didn't know what to say. He had always been a man of confidence, but now, I could see the cracks. The man who had once been my closest friend was broken. He had lost everything, just like Emily. And just like her, he was hoping I would feel sorry for him. I know I've screwed up, he began, his voice shaky. I know I've betrayed you. But Greg, I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant for any of this to happen. I stared at him, my mind racing with a mixture of anger and disbelief. You never meant for it to go this far? Nathan, you've been sleeping with my wife. You've destroyed my life. You've ruined everything, and now you're here asking for forgiveness? I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said, his voice low. I'm asking for a chance to explain myself. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to take your place in her life, but I don't know. It just happened. Don't give me that, I said, cutting him off. You've been planning this for months, Nathan. You've been lying to me, manipulating me. And now you're here, pretending like you didn't know what was going on. He lowered his head, the guilt clear in his eyes. I never wanted it to come to this. I never wanted to be the reason for your pain. I laughed bitterly. You didn't care about my pain, Nathan. You only cared about your own. You took something that wasn't yours, and you've destroyed everything in your path. And now you're here playing the victim? I'm not playing the victim, he said quickly, shaking his head. I'm lost, Greg. I made a mistake. I ruined everything, and I don't know how to fix it. I leaned back in my chair, my eyes fixed on him. Fix it? How can you fix something you've destroyed? There's nothing left, Nathan. You've burned every bridge. And now you want to tell me it was a mistake? His voice cracked. Yes. It was a mistake. And I know it doesn't change anything. But I need to make things right somehow. I can't live with myself knowing what I've done to you. For a long moment, we just stood there, the weight of the situation settling over us. There were no words left to say. No more excuses. No more apologies that could fix anything. I don't want to see you again, Nathan, I finally said, my voice steady. I don't want to hear from you. You've destroyed everything. I have nothing left to give. Nathan looked like he wanted to say more, but he stopped himself. He seemed to know that there was nothing left to say. When Nathan left, I didn't feel any satisfaction. I didn't feel any victory. I had destroyed his life, but in the end, it didn't feel like a win. It felt like a hollow victory, one that left me just as empty as when I first found out about the affair. I thought the anger would go away. I thought the bitterness would subside. But it didn't. It only grew stronger, and I was left wondering if there was ever any true justice for what had happened. A week passed, and things seemed to be settling down. Emily's life was in shambles, her career and reputation shattered. Nathan had lost everything, including his badge and his position as a police officer. They had both paid for their actions, and I had done everything I could to make sure they felt the consequences. But something inside me told me it wasn't enough. Something told me that, no matter how much they suffered, it wasn't going to bring me peace. And then, one evening, I received a letter. It was from Emily. She had written me a final message, a letter that I never thought I would see. The letter came on an ordinary Thursday afternoon, just when I thought things were starting to settle down. The guilt, the anger, the deep, insistent ache in my chest, it had all begun to feel like a weight that was slowly lifting. I had taken back control. Emily and Nathan had paid the price for what they had done to me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was free. But that letter, it changed everything. When I saw the envelope, I almost didn't open it. I had told myself I was done with her. I didn't want to hear from Emily again. I had wiped her from my life as cleanly as I could, and I was finally starting to breathe again. But I knew I had to. I tore open the envelope, the thick paper creasing under my fingers. Inside, there was just a single sheet of paper, her handwriting neat and precise, almost as if she had planned this carefully, choosing each word with purpose. At first, I thought it was another apology, another attempt to make things right. But as I read the words, my heart sank. This wasn't just an apology. This was something deeper, something darker. Asterisk. Greg, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to understand something, something I never had the courage to tell you before. You know about the affair, you know about my betrayal, but there's something else I've kept hidden from you. Nathan wasn't the only one I betrayed. I betrayed you long before I ever met him. You see, I've been hiding things from you for years. Things about me, things about our life together. And now that it's all falling apart, I can't keep pretending. I know you think I've done this because I wanted him, but that's not the full story. Nathan was a part of my escape, but not the reason for my betrayal. I had been feeling empty for so long, Greg. I was drowning in a life I thought I had to keep up, and when Nathan came into my life, he became my way out. But in the end, it wasn't him I wanted. It was freedom I wanted. And that's something I took from you, from us. And for that, I will never forgive myself. Asterisk. The words felt like a punch to the gut. I had been expecting some form of regret, but this was something different. This wasn't just about an affair. This was about the life we had built together, a life that had been built on lies. She had kept secrets from me. She had been lying to me long before Nathan ever entered the picture. I sat there, staring at the letter, feeling the weight of her words settle heavily on me. She had betrayed me in more ways than I could count, and now she was admitting that the affair wasn't even the beginning of it. My hands shook as I read on. Asterisk. I don't expect you to ever understand what led me here. I don't expect you to forgive me. But there's one thing I need to tell you, something I've never been brave enough to admit before. Nathan wasn't the one pulling the strings. It was me, Greg. I've been manipulating you for years, playing this game with both of us, and I'm sorry. I know I destroyed you, and I know that nothing can fix it. But please, before you walk away from me forever, understand this. I never wanted to hurt you. I was lost. I didn't know how to fix myself, and in the process, I destroyed everything. Asterisk. I closed my eyes, letting the words sink in. She had been manipulating me. For years. The entire time we were together, I had been living in a relationship built on her lies, her deceit. She had been hiding herself from me, hiding her true feelings, her true desires. And all along, I had thought we had the perfect marriage. This wasn't just about an affair. It wasn't about Nathan or her choices with him. This was about everything she had kept from me. The quiet manipulation that had been festering beneath the surface for years, and I had been none the wiser. I couldn't breathe. The weight of it all felt too much. The pain, the anger, the regret, it all collided within me, swirling together in a storm of emotions that I couldn't quite grasp. But then, the final lines of the letter hit me like a cold wave. Asterisk. I know this will sound selfish, but I need you to understand this. I never wanted to lose you. I never wanted this to end. But I've already chosen my path, Greg. I'm going back to Nathan. I can't keep pretending anymore. Please don't try to stop me. Please don't think you can fix this. It's over. I will always love you, but I need to find myself. And I can't do that with you. Asterisk. I felt like I had been slapped across the face. She's going back to him. After everything, after all the pain, the manipulation, the lies, she was choosing him. Again. I didn't know how to react. I didn't know what to feel. The rage was there, but it was drowned out by something else. A hollow emptiness that stretched far deeper than anything I had ever felt before. I stared at the letter for what felt like hours, my mind racing, my heart pounding. She had made her choice. She had chosen him, again. And I was left with nothing. But I couldn't let her walk away. I couldn't just sit here and accept this. Not again. Not after everything she had done. I got up, pacing the room. The letter burned in my hands, its weight unbearable. I had to do something. I couldn't let her destroy me. I couldn't let her walk away without facing the consequences of her actions. But I had to be smart about this. I had to make sure that when it was all over, she knew exactly what she had lost. The last time I had confronted her, I had been too soft. Too emotionally invested in trying to save something that couldn't be saved. This time, it would be different. I wasn't going to play the victim anymore. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. No. This time, I would make sure she regretted the day she ever crossed me. I started planning. The first thing I did was gather the evidence. All of it. I knew how this would play out. She would try to twist things. She would try to manipulate the situation again. So I had to be prepared. I pulled up the bank statements, the receipts, the phone records, everything that could expose the truth about her affair, her lies, and her manipulation. And I had one thing she didn't expect. I knew her better than she knew herself. But this time, I wasn't going to just expose her to the people around her. No. I was going to make sure the world saw who she really was. She wanted freedom? Well, I would give her exactly that. Freedom from me, freedom from the life we had built together. But in return, she would lose everything she thought she could walk away with. I would destroy her career, her reputation, her future. And in the process, I would rebuild mine. The plan was set in motion. Emily had made her choice, but she hadn't realized that in choosing Nathan, she was choosing to lose everything. I had everything I needed, proof, leverage, and a cold, calculated heart to back it up. There's a strange sense of clarity that comes with revenge. Once you've decided to take that path, once you've made the choice to destroy everything in your way, the world becomes a simpler place. You stop thinking about right or wrong. You stop thinking about the consequences. All that matters is the endgame. And for me, the endgame was to make Emily and Nathan feel the full weight of their betrayal. The first step of my plan was executed seamlessly. I had gathered enough evidence to show everyone just how far they had gone. Their affair was no longer a private matter. It was out in the open, for everyone to see. And I knew Emily had tried to manipulate people into thinking she was the victim. But she wouldn't be able to hide anymore. I contacted her work. I made sure her colleagues knew what was going on. She had been the trusted leader, the person who everyone turned to for advice, but now, they would all know who she truly was. A woman who had lied, betrayed, and manipulated everyone around her. I had made sure to plant seeds of doubt, whispered in the right ears, and made sure the rumors would spread like wildfire. The whispers in the hallway would become roars. The fallout was immediate. Her colleagues began to question her. Her friends started backing away. I could see it all unfold before me, like a slow-motion car crash that I couldn't look away from. And yet I felt nothing. The satisfaction I had expected to feel was absent. Instead, there was only a hollow void. I had become just as cold as I had wanted to. But was it worth it? I didn't care. I had already crossed the line. There was no going back now. Nathan was next. I had always known that his position in the police force had given him a sense of invincibility. He thought that because of his badge, he could get away with anything. But I was about to make sure that he would pay the price for his actions, pay with his career, pay with his freedom, and pay with his reputation. I started gathering evidence on him. It wasn't hard. I had known about his shady dealings for years. But now, I had the leverage I needed. I dug deeper into his records, into his financials, and found the corruption that had been hiding beneath the surface. He had taken bribes, falsified reports, and used his badge for personal gain. All of it was documented, all of it was waiting to be exposed. I sent the information to his superiors. I made sure the police department was fully aware of everything he had done. I made sure the investigation was thorough, and I made sure his name was dragged through the mud. I didn't stop there. The next step was to hit them where it would hurt the most, emotionally. I knew that Emily was still attached to Nathan. She had told herself that their affair had been a mistake, that she had been confused, but I knew better. She had been in love with him. She had chosen him, again and again. And now, she would have to live with the consequences of her choices. I set up a meeting with Emily, but this time, I wasn't going to let her off easy. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me with her tears and her apologies. This time, I was going to make her face the truth. She arrived at the restaurant, her face drawn, her eyes red from crying. She had clearly been through the ringer, but I didn't care. This wasn't about sympathy. This was about making her understand the full extent of her actions. She had destroyed everything I had, and now she was going to have to face the consequences. She sat across from me, looking small, broken. I could see the guilt written all over her face. But it didn't move me. I had already made up my mind. Greg, she whispered, her voice shaking. I know I've done things I can never take back, but please, you have to understand, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. I was confused. I was lost. You can stop pretending now, Emily, I said coldly. You don't get to play the victim. You chose this. You chose him. And now look where we are. I didn't know what I was doing, she cried. I was lonely, and he made me feel alive. I thought I was doing the right thing by leaving you, but now I've lost everything. I leaned forward, my eyes locked onto hers. You didn't lose anything, Emily. You destroyed everything. Your career, your friends, your family, they're all gone. And it's your fault. She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. And don't even try to tell me that you didn't know what you were doing. You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted him. You chose him over me. She sat there, her shoulders slumped in defeat. The woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted, was now just a shadow of the person she used to be. The next few days were a whirlwind. Emily and Nathan's worlds were falling apart. The truth had come out. The whispers had become accusations. Emily's career was in shambles, and Nathan was under investigation, his badge taken away. But even though I had achieved everything I had set out to do, I still felt empty. The anger, the satisfaction, the sense of victory, it had all faded away. What had it all been for? I had destroyed them. I had made them pay. But in the process, I had lost something too. I woke up one morning, the weight of the past few weeks pressing down on me. The house felt empty. I was alone, and I was realizing that this wasn't the life I had envisioned. The revenge had consumed me, had turned me into someone I didn't recognize. I had become cold, detached, and cruel. And for what? To prove a point? To make them suffer? I didn't know what I was looking for anymore. I had nothing left. The life I had built had been reduced to rubble, and I was left standing in the ruins. That's when I decided to take a walk. I didn't know where I was going or what I was searching for, but I needed to get out of that house, out of my own head. I needed something to make me feel whole again. As I walked down the street, I felt a weight lifting from me. Maybe it was the fresh air, maybe it was just time passing, but for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. The storm inside me was starting to subside. I had done what I had set out to do. And now, it was time to move on. When I returned to the house that night, I sat down and wrote a letter. It wasn't to Emily. It wasn't to Nathan. It was to myself. I didn't know if I would ever send it, but I needed to get the words out. I did what I had to do. I took control back. I destroyed their lives, but in doing so, I lost myself. I thought revenge would bring me peace, but it hasn't. It's left me with nothing. I don't know if I'll ever truly recover from what I've done, but I have to try. I can't live in this darkness forever. Thank you for being with us on Whispers Secrets. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, drop a comment, and be sure to subscribe. The secrets are waiting to be revealed. See you soon.